Women should remain silent in the churches. They are not allowed to speak, but must be in submission, as the law says. If they want to inquire about something, they should ask their own husbands at home. For it is disgraceful for a woman to speak in the church.
Samuel said to Saul, I am the one the Lord sent to anoint you king over his people Israel. So listen now to the message from the Lord. This is what the Lord Almighty says. I will punish the Amalekites.
Jésus, par ton sang précieux, enlève mon iniquité. Regarde-moi sur les cieux, dis-moi que tu m'as pardonné. J'ai longtemps erré cœur rebelle, mais j'entends ta voix qui m'appelle. Au pied de ta croix maintenant, tout confus, brisé, je me rends. Blanc, blanc, plus blanc que neige, blanc, plus blanc que neige, lavé dans le sang de l'agneau, je serai plus blanc que la neige.
Now go, attack the Amalekites, and totally destroy all that belongs to them. Do not spare them. Put to death men and women, children and infants, cattle and sheep, camels and donkeys. 1 Samuel 15.
Greetings, everyone, and welcome to the 15th episode of God is Not White. My name is Jafrikayiti, and I greet you from the city of Gatineau, Ottawa, capital of Canada, as we brace for the new U.S. tariffs, which are supposed to arrive this evening at midnight. These are the earthly things that we must deal with. However, we did not get here by mistake. What we will be discussing in this program, although it looks, or it might at first look separated or distant, it is directly connected to the crisis of our time. Indeed, God is not white is not for provocation, but it is for education, for awakening, for correction, for reparations, in order for us to get to a better place than where we are today, especially as it pertains to the global African community. Indeed, we have seen in the previous episodes many of the items that describes the justification or the motivation for this program. But tonight, we say superstition ain't the way as we think about this very popular song by the great Stevie Wonder. And this is also to acknowledge the fact that we are not doing anything that no one else had done before. In fact, there have been many voices raised over decades about the topic that we are covering tonight and the previous evenings. More precisely, we saw last week the theme of restitution pertaining to the ransom that the French colonizers collected from the impoverished Africans of Haiti. We spoke about reparations and the Remembré project, which we will mention at the end of this presentation again tonight. We spoke about the twin deceits, the image of Leonardo da Vinci and Michelangelo popularized as that of God and then of the Son of God, since the Romans took over the Jesus movement and made their thing of it and a European thing of it. And the twin of that first deceit, which is God is white, whiteness is godly, we discussed the damage that this twin deceits have caused around the world, particularly in the psyche of people of African descent. And this is why we are doing this program, the series, investigating the uneasy relationship that people of African descent have with Judeo-Christianity and what we think is the best path forward. And we will discuss that again in the fourth part of our presentation. We spoke about the contrast between God and religion as we understand these terms. And we spoke about the fact that as we have been introduced to Judeo-Christianity, it is to a dictatorship of old white men in long robes, because the documents, the dogmas, the songs, the hymnals, everything is theirs. Their words, their votes, their book, their Jesus for their purpose. We spoke about the votes that brought about the existence of Judeo-Christianity, which pretends to be speaking of a universal God, but a universal God that has its own chosen people. So we spoke about the who, when, what of Christianity. We contrasted major players who led to the creation of the sect, particularly Paul of Tarsus and Constantine, the Roman emperor. We spoke about the fact that Paul was Christian, but not Jesus, and how Christianity left Europe to arrive in the Americas, in particular to the island of Haiti, where I was born and raised, the son and grandson of African, Black Haitian Episcopalian priest. Okay, tonight we will touch upon superstition. And no, we are not, second guessing, whether it is good or bad. No, we say it's not the way. But the superstition that we speak about may not be what some people think about when they use the word superstition, or what comes to mind when they say the word superstition. And so we will take a look at a definition of superstition. And we ask the question, who shall protect the most vulnerable from charlatans, the religious pimps? And then we'll talk about the path forward. Looking for healing. Last week, we spoke about remembré, but we will talk briefly about the strategies that could be used to cultivate critical thinking among our people more and more, and to tie that to wide-eyed cultural anchoring, the Remembré Project. And then at the end, there will be a couple of references for your use. Okay, and so let's go full speed. I know that I do not know. This is an African saying. I cannot really identify the people from whom it came. But as we know, Africa being the continent where we all came from, this could be very, very old in terms of an understanding that human beings had reached, that, you know, what we do not know needs to be acknowledged, and that it is an important knowledge to have, that you do not know certain things. And so, whereas I will be speaking about superstition in a derogatory manner this evening, this is not to be confused with a lack of, wonderment in front of the unknown. This is a characteristic of all human beings. But what we are proposing here is that the things that we do know, we need to classify them so that we can make the distinction between what we know and what we believe, and to not equate belief with knowledge. For instance, as I was writing Viv Bondye about Relijyon, I came across this information about a people on the African continent who have a certain knowledge that so-called modern science only discovered recently. And given that these people are living in a modest type of environment without telescopes, it is still a question as to how the Dogon people came to acquire such knowledge. But it is verified knowledge. So from this Gaia article, we can read, while Sirius A, the brightest star in the night sky, is visible without any aid, its companion, Sirius B, a dense white dwarf, was not officially discovered by Western astronomers until the 1970s, with the aid of advanced telescopes. Remarkably, the Dogon people had long known not only about Sirius B, but also its complex 50-year orbital period around Sirius A. The Dogon were also very aware of our location within the Milky Way galaxy and knew of the state of Sirius B, being an incredibly dense and dying star. This curiosity also led them to make further discoveries regarding human anatomy long before Western discoveries were made. End of quote. Now, this is one of many occurrences where we are getting indication that knowledge has been developed by various human societies over time, and that somehow pockets of communities have retained some knowledge, whereas others had not ever heard of it or had lost it because the people who had that knowledge somehow are no longer around. There are new discoveries being made in Latin America with regards to large Maya societies that existed long, long, long ago. And so this gives us a sense of humility when we are approaching knowledge. Yes, current knowledge, and here we're just talking about human beings gazing in the night sky. And, we could talk about what is in the ocean, where there's plenty of mysteries to keep us busy for several centuries still. Okay. So that said, we know that there are certain things that can amaze us. And so when we devalue a superstitious approach to when people are giving interpretation to natural phenomenon, that doesn't mean we take away the fact that there are many things that are truly not easily explained by modern science. Okay, so I know that I do not know. However, there is a corollary to this. Another African wisdom says, when you do not know where you are heading, any road might take you there. Indeed, there is an offering for folks who are well engaged and entrenched in religion. And it answers to a specific need. We spoke about the natural human curiosity in the first few episodes, right? We cannot date, how early the first men and women came up with the questions as to, where do we come from? How did the universe begin? And all of that. So indeed, it is only natural for us to have those questions. However, it is evident that human beings have this capacity of being creative and deceptive. In other words, to invent answers to questions for which the true answer is, I don't know. But for some reason, ego comes in the way and stops the natural inquiry and the desire to search for real answers and to come up with true eurekas, as I have found it, but looking for shortcuts, gurus, someone who can give all of the answers in one package, very nicely organized. And this gives a sense of, stability to some people, to be able to declare that I have found the truth. And it is written, it is this, it is that. And so in Viv Bondye about Relijyon, I stated, yes, I find it reasonable for humans to believe in the existence of creator or creators, and in the possibility of having other brothers and sisters or children of God on other planets or galaxies. However, this doesn't mean we should let fear paralyze us and not try to understand these phenomena with human intelligence and the lived experience of humanity over eons. Furthermore, if our creator or creators wanted us to receive knowledge in a completely different way, I don't see why this must be done in secret, where a minority knows what's going on, while the rest must stand as mere sheep or donkeys on which the chosen few are riding. Of course, this is a translation from Haitian Creole, the language in which Viv Bondye about Relijyon was published. Another way that we say it in the same book is that you and I discussing God is like two ants stuck all their lives in a corner of my room here in Ottawa, arguing over the magnitude, the particularities, and beauties of Haiti. The two ants know nothing about what they're talking about. And so recognizing, acknowledging this human limitation is not a cop-out. It's not saying that, no, these questions are not important, we should stop the inquiries. No, 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 no. On the contrary, it is saying that we must assume the courage to keep looking honestly and to only declare victory when it is true that we have found an answer, a satisfying answer to the question, as opposed to make believe, as opposed to using violence to, bully others, to join our deception in order to, feel better about ourselves. And I think that's, the basic frame of mind that motivates this program. Sister Butterfly McQueen says it so eloquently, because for us Africans, there is a particular urgency in addressing this issue of superstition. She says, as my ancestors are free from slavery, I am free from the slavery of religion. If we had put the energy on earth and on people that we put on mythology and on Jesus Christ, we wouldn't have any hunger or homelessness. Butterfly McQueen. There's nothing really to add to this. I, attempted to make a few translations of the statement in French and in Haitian Creole, because it's such a powerful statement. Indeed, if you go into the Merriam-Webster dictionary, accessible online, this is how they define superstition. There are two different ways. The first has two parts. A belief or practice resulting from ignorance, fear of the unknown, trust in magic or chance, or a false conception of causation. Right? You see something and then you attribute it to a certain cause that makes no sense, that is magical. B, an irrational, abject attitude of mind toward the supernatural, nature, or God, resulting from superstition. And two, a notion maintained despite evidence to the contrary. Of course, we can all find different examples to illustrate in our daily lives, and in making this presentation, I spoke about some examples of what has happened in the past in Haiti that I witnessed. For instance, there was a solar eclipse in 1998 in Haiti, and I recall how there was a sense of panic in the country, although there were scientists, people who went on TV, on the radio to try to advise the community as, how to protect their eyes and things. But then there were people who went around giving magical explanation for the solar eclipse and saying that in the name of Jesus, they're going to look straight into the eclipse and nothing is going to happen to them. Others, who went into hiding in their houses, etc. So there are consequences when there is a lack of vulgarization of basic scientific knowledge in a society. And so, when Sister Butterfly McQueen speak about how we utilize our time and energy and resources, this also speaks powerfully to me, because I have often asked the question, you know, how long would it take for us in Haiti to organize a combit, which is collective work, you know, something, a method of working the land that we've adopted from our African ancestors. How long would it take for us to make Haiti all green again if every Saturday, you know, the Seventh-day Adventist folks who meet would take the time they spend studying the lives of Jeroboam and Methuselah and, you know, all of these people that they describe in the Judeo-Christian Bible, if they took that time to bring the believers to the mountains to plant, you know, fruit trees, mapu, mahogany, mango, zabuka, and then, you know, start a competition so that the Catholics, the Protestants, and the Vodou practitioners on Sunday go all over the countryside and do the same. How long would it take for us to bring back the lush forest that we once had in Haiti? Utilization of our resources, utilization of our energy, utilization of our time, a non-renewable resource, time. If we had put the energy on earth and on people that we put on mythology and on Jesus Christ, we wouldn't have any hunger or homelessness. Butterfly McQueen. And so there are other consequences to not doing our work to cultivate critical thinking in our societies so that people can protect this other precious resource that they have, their brain, which is very powerful, but also very vulnerable, very fragile. Who shall protect the most vulnerable among us from charlatans, from the religious pimps? We spoke about this murder that happened, mass murder, in 1978, the 12th of April. This, we are nearing the anniversary here in 10 days. The 12th of April, 1978. Jim Jones, this fool who was in the United States, created his own offshoot denomination, and then, you know, became very delusional. They ended up going to Guyana, and upwards to 900 people took poison with the coward, who couldn't just kill himself on his own, but brought along children, innocent children, men and women. And I believe there's a US senator who actually died when he went there trying to negotiate with Jim Jones for the release of the people that he had just barricaded. You know, it's like one of those many gurus that we have in all of the superstitious beliefs. Now, when you look up at that other picture here, it's of a Haitian voodoo temple. Yes, yes, yes. You see all these white crosses and, you know, the white saints and everything. Yet it is a Haitian voodoo temple. Because the religions and the superstitions, they share symbolism, mysticism, making anything that is simple complicated, because that's how the charlatans collect your money, right? If it is accessible knowledge, You know, that's too easy. They have to make it complicated. You know, they have special knowledge. You know, they heard it from special voices. When someone goes around bullying others to throw away their cultural relics, to adopt a book written in a language they don't even understand, telling the story of another people who lived in another place, in another era, in the hope that they would ultimately both magically end up in a place called heaven after they die on earth, it is nothing but superstition fighting superstition. Indeed, as we speak, there is a mini crisis in Haiti beyond the troubles that are linked to the US armed terrorists who've been murdering innocent people for the past 2 decades. Now you have a fool who declares himself a pastor in the very city of Dessalines, the capital of the empire that was declared by the self-liberated Africans of Haiti in 1804. There were many forts that were built by these Africans in order to fight back any returning French, British, Spanish, or other white supremacist slavers. One of these forts is named Fort Innocent. Well, this fool who declares himself a Christian pastor decided that he's going to take this fort and turn it into his own church. Well, this is, of course, something that he's doing because of a severe absence of a functioning state. But it is also linked to the ridiculous, ethnocentric, racist, and stupid ideas that are part of the Bible. This pastor can just bring up, Joshua 10 in the Bible to justify his behavior, right? Didn't Joshua leave his own country to go and attack the people, the Amalekites? And in his quest to uproot the people of the Amalekites, he asked his super god for help, and the god indeed started throwing hailstone on the people, the owners of the land, so that Joshua and his own gang of terrorists can take over the land from its owners. Isn't that what's happening today in Palestine? Those things happening in the name of a God that is bloodthirsty, doesn't care about justice, but as long as its own chosen people win the war, and now, some African fools have decided that, okay, they are the chosen people, or they've been adopted into the chosen people family, and so now they're going to attack the others. There has to be more and more people who rise in our communities so that common sense prevails as opposed to all of these delusions that human beings have created for themselves. Delusions such as exhibited by this thief who claims that Jesus wants him to have a jet. But Jesus doesn't send him to work, right? He's saying that to his flock. The sheep, they are the ones who should, forego the education of their children, all that they need to sustain their own family so that this fool can fly in a private jet. And he's not the only one. Whether you take Creflo Dollar, the black thief there, or you take Popov, there's, a myriad of thieves who have created those mega churches. And we have a few in the Haitian community today. Someone has to rise up to establish policies, practices, so that the state can protect the most vulnerable among us from these charlatans, from these religious pimps. In the case of Haiti, we have many Ougans, many Mambo who practice that same type of thievery. And so it's not about a specific brand of superstition. We have to be careful with all of them to make sure that the state has provided for all of us, even in our weakest moments. We're looking for answers, dealing with depression, loss of jobs, family tragedy. We don't end up further victimized by these predators. And so we say that there is a path towards healing. And what I am putting forward here, in addition to what we spoke about last week, the Remembré project, I am saying that cultivating critical thinking is absolutely essential. Unfortunately, this wasn't the practice when I was growing up in Haiti. As I wrote in Viv Bondye about Relijyon, from childhood, neocolonial education encouraged superstitious beliefs to thrive in our minds, at our schools, homes, and communities. That education system was fueled by fear. Under a dictatorship, where there was neither place nor time, let alone encouragement to ask questions. Indeed, I can't recall any Sunday school where people were really asking questions. In fact, all of the questions came from the study book. The questions are there, the answers are there, and then people parrot the same nonsense year after year, week after week, and then they go on, saying amen to sentences that make absolutely no sense. So critical thinking is important. And it doesn't have to be in an environment where, every primary school has a laboratory. Of course, that would help. Growing up in Haiti, I recall how I never dissected anything in primary school or even in high school. And I left Haiti. I was after my third year in high school. I completed my high school here in Canada. But it's when I arrived in Ottawa in my high school that I did my first dissection. And so when I was in the classroom with my, colleagues or other pupils, these are people who had started doing dissections in primary school. So of course, the state of development of the country can have an impact. However, there is no excuse, because as I was growing up in Haiti, I recall all of these little lizards that we saw. When they died, their body decayed. We saw all of their vertebrae. So you can do a biology class dissecting Mabouya, dissecting Zandolit, what you have access to in your community. But for this to happen, critical thinking, exploration, science must be something that is valued. Mathematics, what they're calling STEM or whatever, but science, technology, engineering, mathematics, young Black men and women all over the world need to recapture the knowledge that we are scientists. We are the ones who created algebra. You can't build these pyramids in Kemet if you don't know how to measure. It's not Pythagoras who invented that, and many others. And so these are our things. And so instead of getting Black children in Muslim Africa to spend all of their lives reciting the Quran, we need to focus them on chemistry, on algebra. On biology, so that they can know how to transform the uranium of their country, the lithium of their country, without endangering the lives of their loved ones, for the benefit of their people, for the benefit of humanity. The idealism that Albert Einstein expressed so many times, but to his chagrin, he had to see some of his knowledge, some of his inventions utilized for warfare. But it's not the science that's at fault here. It's because the hard sciences need to match with the social sciences so that we can grow human beings who are capable of doing what Leonardo da Vinci was able to do, to be a scientist, an architect, an artist, all at once. And African people can understand that quite well. As you can see, when we integrate sports from which we did not have access, such as tennis, basketball, once we're there, we're not satisfied with taking the ball and putting it through the hoops. No, we can't do that. We're Africans. We have to, put in some magic into it. That's art. That's in our nature. That's who we are. The Williams sisters transformed tennis. Not just because of the way they entered it, with a father who broke all of the barriers, the socioeconomic barriers that were erected to keep them away from the court, but it's in the way they behaved once they got there. It's in the way they gave these interviews that, put some of the interviewers, uncomfortable because of a racist society in which we still function. And so there is no dichotomy between social sciences, arts, and the so-called hard sciences. They have to come together, especially when you're dealing with wicked challenges such as what we are facing today in our world. Otherwise, some fool is going to use the technology to destroy other people. We're not far. We're seeing it. And there was a time when in North America and in Europe, they used to convince their populations that, the crazy ones are, somewhere over there, we have to watch out for these guys. Now they're realizing what most of us on the planet already knew. No, The fools are right here in Washington, D.C., in Paris. We have to be careful all over the world to make sure that we have enlightened leadership, people who will invest in science with conscience. And so our proposal of remembrer, so wide-eyed cultural anchoring, is that people like Robert Sobukwe, who fought against apartheid in South Africa, may be known. And for Robert Sobukwe to be known, we need to use our brain cells to elevate him and stop using them to speak about Jeroboam, Methuselah, and all kinds of nonsense invented people that we know did not, never existed. And so Robert Sobukwe, I mentioned here that it is important for us to honor him. And one of the methods that I've proposed is that let us make sure that generations of people around the world know about Robert Sobukwe. Well, where are they going to hear about Robert Sobukwe? If our people are the most impoverished on earth, they don't have access to libraries, etc. Well, we have programs such as this one. We have access to the internet. We have all kinds of things that we can use for scientific vulgarization, for the sharing of information. And many people are doing it already on YouTube, on Facebook, etc. But we need to also institutionalize those works like Sheikh Anta Diop, the great brother from Senegal, taught us. But I say we need to put Robert Sobukwe in bronze, okay? So name a newborn child after Mangaliso Sobukwe. Yes, we need to use their actual real African names. No, it's not more difficult than Robert. It's because you've been trained to say Robert, okay? You can also be trained to say Mangaliso Sobukwe. Mangaliso. Name a newborn child Mangaliso Sobukwe, because that's how you keep your ancestors alive. That's how you pay homage to them, especially realizing how they've murdered them early in life. Yes, melt the bronze of an imaginary white Jesus statue today to build a worthy monument in honor of Mangaliso Sobukwe. And while you're doing that, remember what the widow of Malik el-Shabazz told us about her beloved husband, who was murdered by the barbaric US government at age 39. You understand that? 39. And he wasn't alone. Dr. King was murdered at 39. Yes, Dr. King. He was only 39. None of them reached their 40th anniversary, and they were murdered by their own governments, not by the devil. At least not the one with, the little tail and, the red thing. He was offered $6 million, and we were very poor, not to stop what he was doing, but to slow it down. And he returned it 3 times. Dr. Betty Shabazz giving testimony about the character, the courage, the nobility of her late husband, Malcolm X. And so we cannot be wasting our times with imaginary white Jesus who never died for us, who never lifted a finger in our favor when our people were being kidnapped and transported, tortured across the Atlantic to bring to work, to build the Capitol in Washington, D.C., to build the plantations of Jamaica, of Barbados, of Haiti, of Puerto Rico, to slave in the streets of Montreal like Angelique. And so, just as we must continue to identify and punish traitors in our midst, let us remember to pay due respect and honor to our brave and loyal women and men. Honor our noble ancestors, Malcolm and Betty Shabazz. Melt the bronze of imaginary white Jesus, Mary, Joseph statues to build worthy monuments in honor of our very real ancestors, Malcolm X and Betty Shabazz. Indeed, rather than cultivate critical thinking that would cause us to question the narrative put forward by, CNN, Radio-Canada, France 24, or the mainstream, what they call the mainstream, which is really the white stream media, okay? We were taught to assume that school teachers, priests, nuns are all-knowing scholars. Books were treated as infallible sources of knowledge, especially foreign ones written by white folks. Yeah. And so critical thinking will encourage you to ask, okay, why is it when they speak about our people, they call them tribes? How come there were never any tribes in Europe? Theirs are people, but ours are tribes. Critical thinking. And then you start putting the fools in their place. And you start looking for information from others who have also gone to Kemet, inside of the pyramids, who have also studied the mummies, but who are not tainted by white supremacist folly, which caused them to look at all of these paintings of Tutankhamun inside of his tomb and then turn around and say that, okay, we're going to do a reconstruction of the face of Tutankhamun, and they show up a pale thing. This white boy was Tutankhamun. No, you start to understand it's not because people have titles like archaeologists, scientists, that they are not liars. A whole world was tainted by white supremacist stupidity, folly, narcissistic ideas, inventing terms like white Negroes. It's like, what are you talking about? Like the same phenotype, you see it in the street of New York. You know it's a black man because the police is after them. You see them in the street of Montreal. You know it's a black man, but then you see the same phenotype in the tomb of Tutankhamun. You see the phenotype of his grandmother, Queen Tiye, and then you questioning what he looks like. Fool, look at the wall. The ancestors painted themselves exactly as they looked. Why is it you have this desire to see yourself in everything? You weren't there. These were black people who built their civilization. Live with it. You had your own. But African people, you have no time to lament the fact that the enemies of your people have, played dirty or whatever. You should just expect that and produce your own thing. And so you guys in Hollywood, millionaire, multi-millionaire artist, are you going to continue to shake your booty and not produce good stuff for your community? Where is the film about the Haitian Revolution? Where is the film about the resistance in Ethiopia? You guys have to produce it. Kanye, instead of parading your wife half naked, every week, start doing some productive stuff. That's what you have access to the money for. Not to entertain. That's not what Muhammad Ali did. That's not what Nina Simone did. That's not what Miriam Makeba did. They used the access, the power to produce good stuff, like Brother Danny Glover is doing. He's been doing for a number of years now. Many others, like Bill Cosby, has done some of that as well. Michael Jackson with Remember the Time. Yes, the children in Zimbabwe today, the children in Haiti today, the children in Martinique today need to know the story of Queen Nanny of the Maroons, because it is family. It is resistance to enslavement. This Ashanti woman who fought and freed over 1,000 enslaved Africans in Jamaica, she deserves that we build monuments to celebrate her. She is real Queen Nanny. And we don't need to invent, new access to resources to do that. We're going to take the churches, the current churches where white Jesus is being worshipped, where white Mary and white Joseph are being worshipped. We're going to take over those churches and transform them into remembré centers, where we're going to elevate our Queen Nanny of the Maroons. As the great Walter Rodney from Barbados wrote in The Groundings with My Brothers, the most profound revelation of the sickness of our society on the question of race is our respect for all the white symbols of the Christian religion. God the Father is white, God the Son is white, and presumably God the Holy Ghost is white also. The disciples and saints are white. All the cherubims, seraphim, and angels are white, except Lucifer, of course, who was black, being the embodiment of evil. When one calls upon black people to reject these things, this is not an attack on the teachings of Christ or the ideals of Christianity. What we have to ask is, why should Christianity come to us all wrapped up in white? The brother said what the brother said. And so I leave you with this final slide and a few references. Again, Remembrer, the project is to take over those churches where nonsense is being spewed every Saturday, every Sunday about Jeroboam, Methuselah, and Moses and Abraham, all imaginary beings that have nothing to do with us, and spend the time to teach about Tupac Amaru, who stood up in Peru, to teach about John Brown, this white man in the United States who stood up and fought against racial slavery. Real heroes, not invented imaginary beings. Otherwise, if we continue like that, soon enough, we're going to have the Church of Tarzan, the Church of Tintin, and all kinds of, the Church of Spider-Man. Why not keep on inventing all of these crazy things? No, let us honor our true and real ancestors. The Groundings with My Brothers by Walter Rodney is a very, very excellent book. The books by Jean Fouchard, Les Marrons de la Liberté, Les Marrons du Syllabaire, Dr. Jean Fils-Aimé's Vodou, Je me souviens, Lena Rubon's Dieu dans le Vodou haïtien, Dr. Jean-Bertrand Aristide's Haiti, Poésie philosophique pour décolonisation mentale, Sister Amelia Pumele Uribe, she wrote La Férocité Blanche, Génocides occultés de 1492 à nos jours, White Ferocity, Genocides from 1492 onwards. It's very, very solid book. I don't know if it exists in other languages. It's in French here. Of course, the great Sheikh Anta Diop's many books. And if you go on my website, jafrikayiti.com, you will find Viv Bondye about Relijyon in PDF version. It costs, I think, $4 or no, $4 Canadian, $3 You can get the PDF version in Haitian Creole, of course. And the La Fime CDs also in Haitian Creole that tell the history of Haiti and the discussion on Viv Bondye about Relijyon on CD1. Yeah, and then on the website, you will find some of my publications in English, in French, and in Haitian Creole. It has been my honor to be with you this evening, and I encourage you to please do the right thing, share this, and far and wide. And I will try to answer some of the questions and comments in due time. Thank you very much, everyone, and see you next week.
Ok, nous allons jouer à Identifiez-moi le personnage. Alors, nous commençons. Ici,
Toutankhamon.
Toutankhamon, ok.
À cause de sa grosse carcasse, puis il y a comme un serpent.
On y va, go. Monsieur Lamukaji.
Moi, je pense que c'est la mère à Toutankhamon.
Elle n'avait pas de nom?
Non, je ne me rappelle pas.
Thierry? Thier. La reine Thier. Ok. Lui?
Oh oui, ça. Osiris.
Osiris. Osiris, ok.
Dessalines.
T'es d'accord? Certaine? Hein?
Ben, lui, il est dans mon livre de sciences. C'est Albert Einstein.
Ouais.
Leonardo da Vinci.
Ok, maintenant nous allons voir plusieurs personnages. On y va méthodiquement. Les-mêmes.
Et Christophe Colomb.
Non,
Définitivement pas Colomb.
Henri Christophe.
Et ouais.
Pétion.
Donc si ça c'est Pétion, ça c'est...
Henri Christophe.
Non. Moun qui te fait mettre ensemble pour drapeau.
Dessalines.
C'est ça.
Léonard de Vinci. Léonard de Vinci.
Et toi, Nonon?
Ben, je sais pas.
Ok, n'a pas un petit bac.
Léonard de Vinci. Léonard de Vinci, ils ont la même face.
Ça pourrait.
Ils se ressemblent aussi.
Ça, c'est Jésus.
Ça aussi, c'est Léonard de Vinci. La même face partout. Qui faisait des autoportraits.
Donc, Nonon? Ça c'est?
Léonard de Vinci.
Ça c'est?
Léonard de Vinci. Léonard de Vinci.